Hello and welcome to this session regarding the introduction of the topics related to Indian polity. Before moving on to the main aspect of the topic, let's try to first understand the approach which is required to study and what is the strategy that is required to cover the topics related to Indian polity. Now, as you all know, that Indian polity is one of the most important and crucial topics in the civil service examination conducted by UPSC, or for that matter the state public service commissions. If we take the case of UPSC, in the year 2019 itself 11 questions were asked, whereas if we go back 2 years, that is in 2017, 18 questions were coming from this topic. So if we do the maths, then on an average 15 to 18% would be coming from the topics related to Indian polity. If this is the case, then it becomes important to handle this topic in a scientific manner. Now, how to study the topics, how to go for the preparation with respect to Indian polity. To approach this topic, the candidate has to first understand that polity covers the questions related to Indian polity covers both the static as well as the dynamic part, meaning thereby questions would be coming from the static aspect, that is the constitutional provisions, as well as from the dynamic component or the dynamic part, that is with respect to the happenings within the country, that is in other words, that is current affairs, meaning thereby that the candidate should focus on both the aspects. The candidate should be having focus on both the aspects. The candidate cannot neglect static aspect and pay more attention to the dynamic part, or for that matter the other way around, that is the candidate is focusing more on the current aspect and neglecting the static part, meaning thereby a balance has to be adopted, a balance has to be achieved with respect to the study of the topics related to Indian polity. More important than this, one has to find a link between the static as well as the dynamic part. Please understand that anything which is happening in Indian polity would be having its link, would be having its roots in the constitution, because essentially polity is the operationalization of constitution. Now, what does this mean? Constitution provides us with the structure. It provides us with a skeleton. It provides us with the various organs, but at the same time it is merely a structure. Its operationalization, its working is what is called as polity. So constitution is the structure, whereas polity is operation of that structure, that is the constitution. So anything that we observe in the society, in the Indian society, it must be having a definite link with something which has been mentioned in the constitution. Now take this example that I have taken in the slide itself. There is this news about horse trading and buying and selling of political support from the MLAs in the various state legislatures. classic example in this regard, that the scenes that we witnessed in Karnataka, or for that matter in Madhya Pradesh, where the democratically elected governments, they fall down owing to the reason that the MLAs, they withdrew their support. Now what is this? This is the dynamic aspect. But where it is being linked, or what is that which is being talked about in the Constitution, or with respect to the Constitution, it is the 10th schedule. I hope now you are able to understand that how you have to link the current aspect with the static aspect, the dynamic aspect with the static aspect. Apart from this, the candidate should understand that the civil service examination, the topics in the civil service examination, they are not standalone topics. Standalone topics in the sense that they are isolated. So the topics in the civil service examination, they are never isolated. They are essentially related to one another. Everything is connected to everything else, meaning thereby the candidate has to not only find a link with respect to the current events that are happening in a very straightforward manner with respect to that particular topic. For example, as we took the example of horse trading of MLAs and trying to link it with 10th schedule. Now this, on the face of it, looks that something is related to Indian polity. Now this is one thing that the student has to do, the candidate has to do, but at the same time the candidate has to also find a link with the things that are happening in the other portions of the syllabus, and try to find the link, trying to find that linkage with respect to the things in the Indian polity. For example, I've taken this example of the ordinances, certain ordinances that have come into picture due to this COVID crisis. Now the example that I have taken is the ordinance with respect to this Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016, the ordinance which has come out very recently, which has changed certain provisions with respect to Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016. Now Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, or IBC, is essentially related to economy, or the portion called as Indian economy. But at the same time, the ordinance, the procedure to promulgate ordinance, is related to polity. So what I'm trying to say is the candidate should try to go for a 360-degree analysis and linkages. So there are two things that the candidate has to focus upon. Not only the candidate has to see or find a link between those things which are very much apparent that they are related to Indian polity, but at the same time the candidate has to also look into or observe the happenings in the other portions of the syllabus, say for example economy, and then you have to find that link with respect to the topics related to Indian polity. Taking another example, big research is happening with respect to, take this example again, COVID crisis. Big research is happening regarding the medicine of this COVID disease. Medical research and development essentially is something which is related to science and technology. But then again, can one be able to find a link between science and technology and the Constitution or the Indian polity? And the answer is yes. The straightaway link between science and technology and polity, and an example in this regard would be the Ministry of Science and Technology, the Department of Science and Technology, In the Constitution, if one wants to find science and technology, then one has to look into the fundamental duties, where one of the provisions in the fundamental duty says that development of scientific temper should be the aim of every individual in India. So each and everything would be able to get connected with the topics with the things that we would be discussing in the future. So as a candidate, the candidate is supposed to find that hidden link. It will take some time, but no issues with that. That happens with everyone. But the point is, the sooner you start, the sooner you will be able to handle these kind of things. Now, Constitution of India is the foundation of Indian polity, and as I said earlier, that it is laying down the entire working framework. Therefore, it is the book, it is this piece of legislation that would be our primary focus while discussing the topics related to Indian polity. Now, what all will be the topics that we would be discussing? First and foremost, it would be the preamble, the preface to the Constitution. As you have a preface to a book, so is that preface is called preamble when we are talking about the Constitution. What are the features of the preamble? We will be focusing on this, and what are the changes that have come into picture with respect to the 42nd Amendment. Then we will be going to the schedules. Now, what are schedules? We will be talking about that later, but then again, I took the example of 10th schedule with respect to horse trading. What is 10th schedule? It is anti-defection law. Now, what are the ideas behind the various schedules? We will be talking about that. Then we will be going into the basic ideas behind all the articles. We'll be going behind the basic ideas behind all the articles. All the articles that we'll be seeing. Then we'll be talking about the historical background, the salient features of the Constitution. Then we'll be moving into the main portions of our analysis, and that is with respect to the Union and its territories. This topic becomes important. Why? Because the things that are happening in the Ladakh region, the Chinese adventurism that is being witnessed by the country, and with respect to that, this topic plays an important role. We'll be talking about state reorganization and the different commissions that have come into picture. We'll be talking about citizenship, another topic which is in news, which has created news because of Citizenship Amendment Act 2016. But then what is the issue behind this? We'll be seeing it. We'll be talking about fundamental rights, one of the core topics and one of the most favorite topics of the examiner with respect to asking of questions. You can expect that the examiner would be asking certain questions from this. Fundamental rights, a very important one. So these are the things that we'll be talking about. Basic ideas behind Article 12 to 35, understanding Articles 14 and 13, 32, 44th Amendment, what have been the changes, what are the different type of writs like habeas corpus, mandamus, certiorari, quo warranto, etc., etc. We'll be talking about this. We'll be coming to fundamental duties. We'll be talking about Article 51A. What is the rationale behind the introduction of fundamental duties, and we'll be trying to find an answer to the question that what is more important, fundamental rights or fundamental duties. Then we'll be covering topics related to directive principles of state policy, something which we have adopted from the Irish Constitution, the Constitution of Ireland. So what are the sources, what are the key features of DPSP? We'll be talking about this. An important discussion that we would be having would be comparison and conflict between fundamental rights and DPSPs. While discussing DPSPs and while going for this analysis, we would be observing the things that have emerged after the judgments in these cases. These are the landmark judgments, you can say, from the Supreme Court: Keshananda Bharati, Minerva Mills case, Golaknath case, Menka Gandhi case. So these cases, at least the salient point of these cases, we would be discussing. Then the important amendments that have emerged: 42nd Amendment and 44th Amendment and the 97th Amendment, and the changes that have come into picture. So this would be our approach with respect to DPSPs. Then we'll be coming to the union, that is the central element, union government, the union aspect. And in this union topic, we would be talking about the various functionaries that make news on a daily basis. We'll be talking about president, we'll be talking about the prime minister, we'll be talking about the council of ministers, we'll be talking about the attorney general. So everything with respect to the functionaries at the union level, we would be talking about them. Another important topic for the purpose of examination, for example, if we take this case of attorney general, this had been asked, and the question that if I remember correctly was that whether attorney general can take part in the proceedings of the parliament or not. Now this was a statement based question which came earlier, that whether attorney general can take part in the proceedings of the parliament. The answer is yes, the attorney general can take part in the proceedings, but the attorney general can only speak in the parliament, but the attorney general cannot vote in the parliament. So the correct answer would depend upon the phrasing of the question, but then again, attorney general and the characteristics of this office becomes important, and we'll be seeing about that thing. Then we'll be moving on into the parliament. Parliament, role and functions of parliament, what are the various sessions of the parliament, what are the various motions, what are the type of parliamentary procedure that is being followed. We will be talking about this. Then what are the various instrumentalities through which parliament comes into action, we'll be focusing on this also. Now regarding parliament, what I have done is that I have divided this topic into two parts. One is the structural part. Now this deals with the composition of Lok Sabha, the composition of Rajya Sabha, how can one become a member, what are the qualifications required to become the member of these houses, what is the election process, what are the various high offices within the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, like speaker, deputy speaker, chairman, vice chairman or deputy chairman, so on and so forth. Now this is the structural aspect. Now this is one thing that I have done. I have separated it from the operational aspect. In the operational aspect, now this is structural part or structural aspect. In the second thing, the second point of analysis is the operation. Now here what I have done, I have talked about I'll be talking about various type of majorities. What are the various type of majorities? What are the various type of bills? What are the various ways in which both the houses get operationalized? Meaning thereby I'll be talking about question hour, I'll be talking about 0 hour, adjournment motion, censure motion, motion on vote of thanks, etc. in this aspect, in this operational aspect. Now this has been done specifically to remove the confusion. No, I'm not trying to mix up all the things. The aim here is to cover the thing in a smooth fashion, and it becomes easy for the candidates also. So you all are requested to follow the same pattern. Then we will be moving to the judiciary. And here we'll be talking about the Supreme Court and the High Courts primarily. What is the appointment process? What is the appointment process regarding the Supreme Court? What is the appointment process regarding the High Courts? Who are the high functionaries, high offices that are involved in this, in these deliberations? What are the various jurisdictions? What are the various ways in which these two courts, the Supreme Court and the High Courts, get operationalized? We'll be talking about these all things in judiciary. Judiciary as a topic becomes important because in the news we find certain articles in the newspapers, in the news channels. We find certain articles, certain reports that that paint the judiciary in the negative light. But then again, for the sake of examination, the examiner might not be interested in that article itself, but might be interested in the judiciary as an institution. So questions can be asked. Then we would be moving on to the state executive. We'll be talking about the state executive. We'll be covering state executive, the state government. We'll be covering the state legislature. Essentially, the things that would be covering in the state executive would be the governor, the council of ministers, the chief minister, and the power equations between these high offices. Likewise, in the state legislature, the composition of the state legislature, what are the qualifications required to become a member, so on and so forth, would be the thing that would be covered over here. We'll be covering the topic with respect to administration of UTs. Now this becomes important for the purpose of examination because recently two new UTs have come up, that is J&K and Ladakh. Now these two new UTs that have come up, and they are in news every now and then. So another area from which questions can be expected. So we'll be talking about these two new UTs, but at the same time, the one UT which is always in news, Delhi, and specifically because of this COVID crisis, how this thing spread so much in Delhi. So we'll be talking about Delhi, but not about the COVID crisis as such, but about Delhi, the administration of Delhi, the conflict which comes into picture or which becomes apparent because of this COVID crisis is that CM versus the LG, this tussle that is going on. So we will be focusing on this, we will not be focusing on COVID. So this would be the things that we would be covering in the administration of UTs. Moving further, now then there are certain areas which are called as scheduled areas. So we'll be focusing on how these scheduled areas are administered. So what is the fifth schedule, what is the sixth schedule? We'll be talking about this. What are the various provisions included in these areas? We'll be talking about the emergency provisions, the three type of emergencies that come into picture. The three type of emergencies, that is the national emergency under Article 352, President's rule under 356, and financial emergency Article 360 under Article 360. Now these two emergencies, as you all know, they have been used in sometimes so much so national emergency was imposed by the former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi in the month of June itself, on 25th June, on the night of 25th June. And President's rule, it is that emergency which is being imposed every now and then. And the third one, that is financial emergency. Out of these three, the first two, 352 and 356, have been imposed, but till date Article 360 has not been imposed. But what are the intricacies of the three type of emergencies? We'll be dealing it in detail when the topic would be taken up. Now, what have been the changes because of the 44th Amendment to the Constitution? What is the role of President? What is the role of the various state legislature, the Parliament, how to revoke emergency, so on and so forth? This would be covered within the emergency provisions. Now, this I would be taking separately. This would be separated. This would be taken up separately, discussed separately. It would not be mixed up with the powers of the President, because it is the President who imposes these or proclaims these emergencies. So when we'll be discussing executive, I'll not be taking up emergency provisions there. I would be taking it as a separate topic. We'll be talking about the center-state relations. Center-state relations. How to bring collaboration, how to bring coordination between the functioning of the state, that is the various states, agencies of the various states, and the agencies of the center. Taking the example of how the state and states and the center coordinated their efforts in this COVID crisis again, could serve as an example. So these are the things that we would be talking about in center-state relations. The three type of relations: administrative, financial, and legislative relations. We would be discussing about these things in detail. So this would be our topic with respect to center-state relations. We would be talking about the local bodies, that is the panchayats and the municipalities, and we would be going a bit into the history of the local bodies, the evolution of local bodies, and we would be seeing the things in that perspective. We'll be starting our discussion with the Panchayati Raj system, and then we'll be moving on to the municipality system. We would be taking into understudy the two amendments that came into picture, 73rd Amendment and the 74th Amendment, and we'll try to understand the administrative structure, the architecture of these two local bodies, the rural local body, the panchayat, and the urban local body. Then we'll be moving on to certain miscellaneous topics. Constitutional bodies, so the various constitutional bodies that we have to see. Now this is an addition as per the new syllabus. If you take the syllabus of UPSC, then the topic that is mentioned over there is constitutional bodies. So we'll be taking certain constitutional bodies which are making news, which make news. So Election Commission, UPSC, State Public Service Commission, Joint Public Service Commission, these all would be focused upon. Finance Commission, the structure at least, the National Commission for SCs, STs, and the National Commission for Backward Classes. This again has been constitutionalized, so this would be coming into picture. We would be seeing the structure at least, what are their functions, what are their roles, what are their duties, so on and so forth, and that would be covered over here. The syllabus also mentions certain non-constitutional bodies. It is essentially non-constitutional. It is not non or unconstitutional bodies. So we'll be talking about certain non-constitutional bodies, meaning thereby those bodies which do not find their mention in the constitution. Their name is not mentioned in the constitution, but essentially they function in Indian polity. For example, this NHRC, National Human Rights Commission, it is a statutory body. Or for that matter, Central Vigilance Commission, it is again a statutory body. One organization is very much famous for its functioning the CBI, or for that matter ED, Enforcement Directorate. Now all these bodies, all these institutions we would be covering under the heading of non-constitutional bodies and statutory bodies. We'll also be seeing the functioning of certain tribunals like the National Green Tribunal, the Central Administrative Tribunal, the National Company Law Tribunal, and National Company Law Appellate Tribunal, etc. These all bodies, depending on the fact that whether they are making news or not, we'll be covering those bodies. But these institutions, these bodies, these tribunals are always in news in some way or the other, so we have to cover these topics, and we'll be seeing them accordingly. Now we will also be focusing on what are the special provisions with respect to SCs, STs, backward classes, minorities, Anglo-Indians, and the recent changes that have happened in this, specifically in this segment of Indian society. The 2 seats that are reserved, that were previously reserved in the parliament, or for that matter 1 seat that is to be reserved in the state legislature, this has been done away with. So the recent changes will be taking up, meaning thereby we'll be focusing on the current aspect, also a bit of the current happenings that have emerged. We'll be taking those things into account over here. Now coming to the question that what all can be the sources, what all can be the books that one can study apart from these discussions, apart from these videos. See, bare act to the Constitution, it is the most important thing, it is the most important one. So I request everyone, I request all of you to have this bare act to the Constitution of India, and for this you can refer to, you can procure a copy of PM Bakshi. That would be sufficient. Bare act to the Constitution of India. And apart from this, most of you would be focusing on, would be reading from this book written by M. Lakshmikant. This goes without saying, but what goes with saying is that everybody should be having this book, this bare act to the Constitution of India. The other sources, what can be the other sources? Newspaper would be your best friend for your entire duration of preparation, and I know that everybody of you would be following this Hindu newspaper. You can also follow Indian Express. Apart from this, Press Information Bureau, PIB, this is a government organization, so most authentic. You can go for the press briefings, not every press briefing, something which you read in the newspaper, say in Hindu or Indian Express, and you want to know the detailing of that, so you can go for it at this website pib.nic.in and try to search for it over there. Apart from this, there is this another very good source, that is PRS India. And now PRS India is with respect to all the bills and laws that are passed by the Parliament. So if you want to know what is the exact summary, what is the text, actual text of a particular bill, say constitutional amendment bill, or for that matter take the example of Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act. So if you want to know about that, you can go to this website prsindia.com. in the search bar you can type the thing, and you can come to know about the bill text. Apart from these two magazines, that is Yojana and Kurukshetra. Now these two magazines are government magazine essentially, so you can procure the copies of these two magazines and go through them, and you will be certainly getting benefited. And India Yearbook, this comes every year. This is published by the publication division, again a government organization, so you need not worry about the veracity or the correctness of the facts that are mentioned over there. So these are the things, and this is the way in which these are the sources which you have to follow, and we would be taking up this approach, but at the same time I would like to tell you that what we have discussed in the name of areas of focus, we have discussed certain things like preamble, schedules, Constitution of India, so on and so forth. What will be the area of focus? Please understand, this is merely for indicative purposes, in the sense that this is not the sequence in which things would be coming. This is merely a tabulation of the topics, the various topics that are important, or you can say they should be focused upon in our interactions. But then again, this is not a sequence of things, so you cannot you should not expect that I'll be discussing preamble. The first topic that I'll be taking up would be preamble, and then the second topic would be schedule, third would be the Constitution of India, and fourth would be union and its territory, citizenship, so on and so forth. So this is what I'm trying to say, is that this is not the sequence, this is not the class schedule, this is merely the topics, the tabulation of the various topics that should be focused upon. Certain things definitely would be getting added, and certain things definitely would be getting removed from this tabulation, depending on the fact that whether that particular topic is in news or not, whether that particular topic is in news in that particular duration or not. So that is the situation. So it is in this way that I would be conducting these sessions, and this is the way in which things would be happening in the class. Now I'd be concluding this this introductory session by just saying that please try to stick to less number of sources. Do not try to make a library in your study room with books related to Indian polity. Be limited with respect to the sources. Do not try to pile up the books. It is never beneficial. Rather than reading one book, rather than reading 10 books one time, it is always better to read one book 10 times. You'll be getting many new things. So please try to limit your sources with respect to Indian polity, or for that matter anything with respect to the syllabus, with respect to the topics in this examination. Second thing which I want from all of you is that please try to observe your surroundings. Now why I'm saying this, because many things it becomes easy to understand if you are able to observe those things, if you had observed those things. Also your observations, you could quote them, you could mention them as an example in the mains examination, so it will always be beneficial. So these are the things that you have to focus upon. You have to be very much limited and you have to be very much observant. Apart from this, the things would be covered by me at my end. I'll be doing the best of my doing it to the best of my abilities. And lastly, I would say that please try to take care of yourself, your family members in this COVID crisis. The virus is spreading, and the only way forward, the only way to save yourself is to take proper care and protection. And please try to follow the guidelines issued by the government in this regard from time to time. Thank you very much.